What is going on, guys, and welcome to a new video. And after the release of the Loot from 100 hard mode Kerapac solos yesterday, I wanted to put out another video showcasing one of the kills that I did with melee. Now, the majority of the kills that I've done have been with range, and I've only recently just started testing out melee for kills. But I actually managed to get a 555, and I think that it's actually quite a nice style to use now. A few caveats that obviously do have kind of best in slot melee, so this showcase is going to utilize things like Zaros, Godzilla, Limitless, Sigil, and Greater Barge, but by no means is it essential. And the second one is that obviously this isn't meant to be a guide, it's more of a showcase of people who have some experience with the boss fight but may want to try and improve kill times if you're sat around the 7-8 minute kill times. And yeah, just potentially you might want to try a different style. You might have only tried range or mage, because I know a lot of people have only really been camping those styles. So this is a bit of a showcase of how you can kind of use melee as well. Now, before we jump into it, I just want to start off with a couple of different tips for the actual boss fight itself that people may or may not be aware of. So the first one is a Slayer helm does work when you're on task. So you need a task of known Dragonkin in order to be able to benefit from the Slayer helmet buff, and essentially it's supposed to work with a dragon cluster task as well, similar to ED2. I think that is not currently working at the moment, but should be patched with the next update. So if you watch this video in the future, then that will hopefully be working as well. Now, the second tip is you want to bring a power burst of vitality with you. That's going to be really important for phase 4. What you can do is when you jump into your first time clone, you can use your vitality pot and then jump into a second time clone, and that first one will then have double HP, which means it lasts and lives a lot longer. Therefore, you get less of the Kerapac time clones attacking you over the course of that phase 4. So that's a really, really useful one. And the third and final one is that with it, Kerapac's first smoke cloud attack, you can actually completely nullify this attack by standing underneath the boss and DDing underneath it. And the way that you go about that is that at the start of the phase, Kerapac's going to do 3 auto attacks. Once it's done that third auto attack, it's going to raise its staff in the air. Make sure you DD underneath, and once you do that, you can go into like a channeled ability, so maybe Assault, Destroy, whatever it is, or if you're ranging, Rapid Fire, Magic, you can go into an Asphyx. All of that is going to let you do damage to the boss without moving you, because you don't move when you do a channeled ability, which means that you'll stay underneath Kerapac, and that attack will be completely nullified. One thing to note on that is that if you do mess it up, let's say I mess up phase 2 and don't DD underneath it, I'm going to have to kill the smoke cloud. And also on phase 3, the time clone from phase 2 will be able to do the smoke cloud attack again, so you're going to get it twice. So you basically have to execute across all the phases in order to be able to nullify that attack. Anyway, we'll jump into the live commentary now, and I hope you guys find it useful. I'm going to go into the kill now, and basically we start off with Vuln bombing the boss and a full Zerk rotation with a Greater Barge. So basically what you want to do is count 3 attacks. I do Assault, Hurricane, and then into a Greater Flurry whilst DDing under the boss after that third attack. If you don't have Greater Barge, you could just do Assault, DD under the boss, and then into a Destroy. Following that, we're going to chuck a few bleeds on it with the Trim Masterwork Spear. Again, if you don't have the spear, just put some bleeds on. Build your Adrent up. Now, after that, it's going to do its jump attacks. So what you can do here is when you surge and you correctly miss the dodge, your surge will get reset, and so will your barge. So on the third one, I go into a ZGS and wait, and then barge, because obviously whilst it's jumping, it allows the cooldown to the 6-second cooldown to go. I get a Limitless proc, so I chuck in a clause, but normally I would just do Assault, Destroy, and then you can see here I almost get a lightning skip, so we phase it about here. Normally HP's around 80k at that point, and then Blade dive through that first lightning. Now you don't want to use your Time Warp ability straight away here, you want to chuck some bleeds onto the boss, because if you use Time Warp too early, it will move you out of your DD, which means you get the smoke. So after 3 attacks, DD under the boss, build to 100 with an Anticipate, and then Time Warp, Zerk, and then standard rotation. I get a Limitless proc again here, so I put my bleed on, Hurricane, and then go into a clause, but normally you would go Limitless, Assault, and then Hurricane. You can get all of that in before your reset, which means you can then go into another Assault and another Destroy, as I'm doing right here. And that pretty much melts like the first part of the phase. That's 300k damage done in essentially like 1 Assault. So we're going to do exactly the same thing for the jump attacks on the third one. ZGS, Barge, bleed your Flurry, because your Assault and Destroy are on cooldown. and just build your adrenaline up. Use your thresholds where you can, chuck some bleeds on, and you see again we almost phase it before the lightning, but just not quite. This isn't too bad again here. Play it safe if you want to, put your shield on, take a res, and then dive through, which is what I tend to do. If the boss's HP is still quite high at this point and you're a little bit more experienced and don't think you're going to require too much food for phase 4, what you can do there is, or what I tend to do is, do a reflect and just let the lightning hit me, and you can reflect like 20 plus 30k damage onto the boss, which is quite nice. Again, for phase 3, it's exactly the same rotation as the first time, so put some bleeds on, DD under the boss, do a Zerk rotation with your time warp. You can see here I actually messed up, I didn't use time warp. Fortunately, it doesn't hurt me too much because I do enough damage in that Zerk and then in the ZGS rotation on the jumps to be able to phase it after the first lightning, but before the second lightning, which is ideally what you kind of want to get to. Obviously, if you could phase it before the first lightning, then that's going to give you the quickest kill time, but it's also risky because if you phase it during that lightning phase, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble because you're going to get smacked a lot of damage. I've died quite a few times where I phased it during the lightning. So you can see here about 120 80 to go. Just going to play it safe, take a res, do a reflect, and then blade dive and surge through the lightning. You don't take too much damage with kind of trim masterwork and a reflect up. And then at this bit, you want to make sure that you don't use any of your kind of threshold abilities, except for the bleeds, as you can see them doing here. I want to make sure my Zerg, my Assault, my Destroyer are all off cooldown for the start of this next phase. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump to the first clone, use our Vit Pot, and then jump to the second. We're going to time warp and Zerg. Now, normally what I would do here is barge, limitless, destroy, hurricane, but my limitless was on cooldown because I messed up phase 3. So what I had to do was wait for the reset, then go into my assault and then into a hurricane. Now, normally it would already be dead at this point, and you would actually be able to bladed dive over to the second clone and put your destroy on this within your berserk still, and get it down even faster. But basically, I let that second clone just tank for me. You can take a cheeky res from the main boss when you're doing kind of a ZGS rotation, and ideally what you want to do is you want to get this kit down before that third clone starts attacking you. If it does start attacking you, you'll see here what you want to do is put your shield on and go into reflect and just build to 100%, because we're going to go into our next Zerk rotation here. You got to be a little bit careful if you're using like a Divine or an Ellie here, because your prayer will get drained really fast. But yeah, once you can, time warp and then go into devotion into your Zerk once you've built back to 100. Be a little bit careful when the time warp ends, and make sure you're kind of spamming the devotion ability, otherwise you can get comboed out in like the tick between you activate it and the tick that it disappears. As you can see, finished off the rest of that minion with the time warped assault berserk, and then that actually extends your devotion, which is pretty nice. So you can blade dive over to the boss, go into a destroy. Once I've done that, I actually debilitate and then go into a ZGS rotation, and this is where I think I could have got a little bit faster. I kind of I was being a bit safe and kind of had my shield on, even though I had plenty of food left. Anyway, the final kind of rotation that I went into was a Zerk with my shield on, and just do a few basics. I'm not trying to do too much damage here. I'm waiting for the reset to Cade, and then go into a Limitless with an assault on that kind of Zerked Cade with just one-handed. And the damage is not too bad. I think you could probably try and throw in a Revenge, try and get some Revenge stacks somewhere in there. Or potentially another option is kind of similar with Telos, have a Turtling switch and do it with a Defender, so you're getting extra damage output through that rotation as well. But obviously you lose the the damage absorption of the Divine, which is really, really helpful, especially when you set quite high stacks. And also I've got like Absorptive 4 on my Divine as well, which helps some more as well. Anyway, I hope you find that useful. That's kind of a bit of a showcase, obviously not meant to be a guide, but just kind of help people with some rotations that you can do with melee. Alright guys, so that's going to be it for this video. I hope that you found this kind of showcase useful, or at least with kind of trying to improve or optimize your rotations. Any comments, questions, please do let me know down in the comment section. I will get back to you if I have a good answer for you. And yeah, from here I think I'm going to keep trying to optimize this melee rotation and probably put out a melee guide. I would like to do kind of different variations of the guides. So one of the things that I found with the fight is that there is a lot of variability between kills. Like there's scenarios where you can change your rotation if you need to be more defensive or more aggressive depending on how well the kill has gone. So I think doing a couple of different guides with different setups would be kind of optimal. So I'd like to do kind of best in slot guides for melee, and then I'd also like to kind of downgrade to kind of Drygores and maybe Nose EGS. Obviously I have Greater Barge, and I have a Limitless Sigil, so I'm probably going to include those in the guides. But yeah, I'd also like to do a range one without best in slot range. I think it would be possible to get a relatively consistent with P4 with a Wyvern crossbow and with Ascensions. I think I've got a pretty good rotation down for that is a mix of offensive and defensive, although it does utilize Hydrix bolts, which are quite important for the phase 4 for making sure you've got a lot of adrenaline. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of the plan, and hopefully those guides will come out over the next couple of weeks before the next front is released, and help you guys get some of your first kills at Kerapac. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please do, as I said, add any comments below, and I will do my best to answer those questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one.